Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Monday, November 9th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Maryland game is 5 days away. The game against Michigan is in 33 days. Ohio State is 3-0 right now, but it seems like many Buckeye fans not feeling terribly confident in their team at the moment. Saturday night's game against Rutgers raised some questions on both sides of the ball, and questions are not normally something that gets raised by a team like Rutgers. So on defense, there are some concerns about the defensive backfield, some of the tackling issues in the second half. On offense, the passing game is humming along just fine, but the run game has been pretty inconsistent. So my guest today is Buckeye Scoop's Kirk Barton. He's a former Ohio State captain and All-American. Kirk, when you look at the Ohio State running game, the big question, is it time to panic?
I don't think it's time to panic yet. We ran for 198 yards total, but our efficiency was very poor. I mean, we had a couple of chunk plays that really raised that average up, obviously. But you look at our efficiency, man. I mean, we were 3.5, 4 yards a carry, which in college football nowadays, that's not good. I mean, when we've been humming, we've been at 6 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry, 7 yards a carry. So I think that there's a lot that needs fixed. I think our backs are kind of who they are. They're not top drawer guys. Like, I think when we've been really good, we've had like a JK and Ezekiel, Carlos Hyde, a guy that was like the guy, and I don't know if we really have that this year, but it was concerning last night because I felt like we came out. It's really strange. We came out and played great in the first half, and then I just felt like we got outfought in the second half. Like we got out efforted, and that's something that is really concerning because it's happened 2 straight weeks.
No, you obviously were an offensive lineman when you were playing and coaching at Ohio State. So let's look at the line for a minute. First 2 weeks, 9 of the possible 10 guys on the line graded out as champions. The 5 starters could all grade out as champions. 4 of them did it the week 1, 5 of them did it week 2. So it seems like the coaching staff has been pretty happy with the line so far. Did you see any issues with the line as they were trying to run the ball on Saturday night?
Well, I mean, the holding penalties are pretty egregious. I mean, Harry had 3, Wyatt had 1. Those got to get cleaned up. I mean, and the second one here I thought was kind of BS, but the other ones were legit. And those are killing us right now. And I just think it's something that we got to get ironed out because again, I always grade us against how we do against a really top drawer opponent as opposed to Rutgers. Like if we were playing Notre Dame, Clemson, Bama, that's what I'm eyeing for because the only team that we played last year that had equal talent to us beat us, Clemson. So, and for whatever reason, I know Sean Wade's targeting or J.K. Dobbins getting hurt. That was the only team that was even close talent-wise and they beat us. So it's concerning because you can't get too complacent when you play teams that you're just severely better than. And I don't think it's time to panic, but I mean, you really got to take a hard look at yourself and wonder why we're not finishing games the way that we should be.
You mentioned the holding penalties from Wyatt Davis and Harry Miller earlier. Pass pro was obviously a little bit more of an issue than the run blocking last year, and part of that was on Justin Fields for holding the ball too long. This year, there haven't been as many sacks, but there have been, you mentioned, those holding penalties. Harry Miller, like you said, got flagged for a couple of those. Mark Givler, during his kind of 10 instant thoughts on the game piece, said he thought it was a hands issue rather than a feet issue with Harry that was causing those. Can you explain what that means? Like, and is that good news or bad news if it is a hands issue versus a feet issue?
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad news, but it's just something there you got to get a better feel as to when you're egregiously holding because Harry, the one holding call, the guy spun and Harry had he was grabbing his jersey essentially and like pulling it. And when you do that, that's going to get called every time. I used to tell guys, I'm like, look, it's better just to let the guy go and, try to recover or let your quarterback or running back beat him than to rip his jersey across his collarbone. And then, cause that's like, every official in the world, when they see cloth get stretched and they see kind of the inside of the breastplate of the shoulder pad, that gets called every time. And I see it every Sunday and it's always amazing to me. The guys can't figure out that you can't get away with that. It's like if a cornerback tackled a wide receiver 10 yards off the ball, they're going to call it. Like it's too obvious. So I think, he's got to get that cleaned up. Again, he's young. It's only his, 3rd or 4th career start. He played a little bit in spots last year, but he's got to play better. And, for this team to go where it wants to go, he's the guy that they're going to attack every week. Harry's going to be the guy that's going to get it every week. And he got it against Penn State. He got it this week. And next week, I'm sure their defensive coordinators are saying, hey, let's go after this guy. And honestly, like some of our older guys need to play a little better too. I mean, they haven't really been at that upper echelon that we projected coming into the year. So for whatever it is, I mean, they got to take a long look in the mirror and clean a lot of things up.
Is that something that might be a function of just the weird off season and not being able to hit nearly as much during camp and that kind of stuff? Or is that, are we past the point where that's an excuse and you think it might be something else?
I think it's part of that, but I also think that everyone's dealing with it, so I mean, Rutgers didn't have any guys that would start for Ohio State playing, but I felt like they played harder than our guys did. So that's why they were a factor. And they had a 260-pound defensive tackle that was making plays. And we had I want to say we had 9 tackles for a loss last night, which is absurd. I mean, our guys are getting hit in the backfield. And, whether it's a free hitter or someone missing a block or missing an assignment, that's just something that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, watching the game on Saturday, I said to Tony Gerdeman while we were up in the press box, I thought maybe we had been a little too aggressive with our expectations of Harry Miller this year, just in our conversations on Buckeye Weekly and other places. The coaches have talked him up really constantly, just even since before he got to campus. But this is still just 3 games into his second season. That was just his 3rd career start. So, you think of him and it's like, oh, it's Harry Miller. He's a veteran. It's like, well, no, not really, actually. And, compared to other guys who have started early in their careers, take a Billy Price, for example, where is Harry Miller sort of on track right now developmentally? Is he sort of, he's not a finished product yet, but is he sort of, even if he's not a finished product, is he, sort of where you would expect him to be, where you would want him to be at this point in his career?
I would say it's about where I expect him to be. I mean, because I remember, Taylor Decker in 13 didn't start off too hot. Billy Price didn't start off too hot. I mean, we've had guys that, we've put them out there and they just haven't been ready to go. And I mean, personally, myself, I didn't start off very hot. My beginning of my career when I was year 2 as a starter, there were some pretty rough patches. Now, the difference is like in 2004 when we weren't very good, as an entire team. This year, this is a team that's expected to win the national title. So that was whole different set of expectations. And I think, it's going to be one of those things where Harry's a prideful dude. He's going to work hard. And the thing, that the coaching staff has to realize is that every team that we go against is going to attack Harry every single time. I mean, they're going to blitz him. They're going to run stunts against him. So we weren't very good against stunts against TE stunts last night. So that's something that we're just going to have to get cleaned up. This is part of, when you're playing poorly and they're giving certain looks that are beating us. I diagnosed that blitz that Penn State ran where we had 5 blockers and they brought 5 guys and they got home and killed Justin. You're going to see that a lot because, that's the beauty of football is other teams are going to study your film. They're going to figure out who the weak links are. And they're going to go after him. And right now, Harry, as good of a kid as he is, I mean, he's not playing as well as others. And honestly, a lot of our guys aren't playing up to the expectations we'd set. So it's going to be an interesting week. We have Maryland, who obviously they don't have our talent. They're not as good as we are, but they can throw it. I mean, that's something that's concerning is Little Tua can throw the ball. And, they were whooping Penn State yesterday. And it's going to be real interesting to see how we do against their throwing game.
So that kind of takes care of the offensive line. The other question in the running game, of course, is the running backs, and you touched on them a little bit off the top of the show. It feels like we kind of know what Master Teague is at this point, for better or for worse. And he could be a very useful player on this offense if they put him in the right situations. Trey Sermon to me feels like more of a question mark, and again, that could be either a good thing or a bad thing. He may just not be what they thought they were getting, or he may just not have gotten a chance to show it because he's had relatively limited carries and. Just when he finally busted one out on Saturday night, then he gets hurt and then he's out. So, is Sermon someone you think could be a real impact player for this team?
I mean, I would hope. I was thinking going into the season that he'd be much better than he's been. The concerning thing is these guys just they all look like they have one gear. We don't have a guy that's got a true breakaway potential, and that kind of kills our offense because when we've been good, we've had one guy who was the guy. Then we had some complimentary guys, but right now I feel like we have a lot of complimentary guys. And it's not a knock on them. I mean, they're as good as they can be, but if these guys were all draft eligible, how many of them would be guys that people would be like Ezekiel Elliott or Carlos Hyde first or second round pick type guys? That's what we've come accustomed to at Ohio State. J.K. Dobbins, second round guy. It doesn't seem like any of these guys are anywhere near that. I think if the draft was tomorrow, these guys would be late round guys to free agents just based on the tape they've put out and just a general lack of explosion. So I think that it's concerning that we don't have a guy who's really grabbed the torch and become the guy yet. I think that our guys are good players, but we need more out of them if we want to get to where we want to go.
Now, this is something that Tony Gerderman and I talked about on the post-game instant reaction show that we did after the game on the Buckeye Weekly podcast. My theory is they don't necessarily need a home run hitter in the running game, but they need someone who can just consistently get them 5-6 yards. Because the passing game is so good this year that if you can just get 5-6 yards and you're just staying on schedule, if you need big plays, they're going to be there in the passing game. It's more important to have kind of a guy who can get you consistent, a consistent 5 or 6 rather than necessarily the guy who's going to be able to bust the 85-yarder. Am I off base on that?
No, I think you're on point with it. But, when we've been good, we've had a guy that did both. He'd get you 5 or 6. And then because in college football, 5 yards is not a lot of yards running the ball. I mean, with the way the spread is now and the high points and the amount of yards that are being put up, I mean, it's, the fact that our efficiency was around 3 a carry, if you take out the 3 explosive plays, that's scary. I mean, for being Ohio State and for the caliber of throwing game we have, along with the caliber of our offensive linemen, to be that low in efficiency is very troubling.
Yeah, coming into the game, I had said to Tony that I thought that the Rutgers game was a game where if it was real fantastic in the run game, it wouldn't necessarily tell me anything because the talent was so much better. If it wasn't good in the run game, that would be kind of a red flag. And I feel like it was really kind of not very good in the run game. So that is a little bit of a red flag. One caveat to throw on that, of course, is the fact that they really have not had that quarterback run game piece in there the last couple of games with Justin Fields. He's really had only a very, very few designed runs. How much does that impact things in the run game? And is that something that you can see changing later in the year?
I think it kills us in the running game not having Justin run the ball more because, frankly, I think he'd be our best running back. He's the fastest guy we have back there by far. And I just think the threat of him running it more would really open things up. I mean, I think a lot of the plays where he gives the ball and it looks like he's running a read option is a design give, and he's just carrying out a fake that doesn't really mean anything. But he finally pulled it, on the one touchdown that he had down in the red zone, and it was wide open. So if he does that a few times a game, gets out on the edge, and and there's guys like Kyler Murray that do it in the NFL. They still run the read option with him, and he's a midget, and he just slides and doesn't absorb a big hit. So I would run Justin more if it was up to me, just to keep the defenses honest, and make them have to defend the backside more. But when you have a quarterback like him who can run like he can, I mean, you should be averaging more than 3 yards a play efficiency wise.
Now, on the Buckeye Scoop front, we have some pretty exciting news coming this week. Let people know what that's all about.
Yeah, so we've got some tech coming. We're finalizing our app. We've got we've got it through Android, through Apple. So that's going to be getting pushed pretty quick here. And we're going to have some really good features. We're going to be live streaming a lot. So that'll be exclusive to our members who are, it's video behind a paywall that's in our own ecosystem. It won't be anywhere else. And I streamed with Bill Green last Friday because we've been testing it. Stephanie Odie's been streaming a lot. I'm sure Gerd and Tom Orr are going to start streaming a lot when they're down on the field or they're at Maryland or wherever you guys are at. And I think it's going to be a big hit. And when we get to recruiting, we're going to have some major things going when we're watching kids at camps and interviewing them. And it's going to be live on our app. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that starts taking it from a website to a whole network of programming and unique content. So yeah, that's we've been waiting on this for a little while. It is finally almost here. So big exciting news this week. That's something to look forward to for Buckeye Scoop members. Kirk, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, my man.
If you are not a Buckeye Scoop member, boy, this would be a great time to be a member, huh? Why don't you take a look at buckeyescoop.com? You can sign up right there. Membership includes access to all the good stuff on the app, all the live streaming video stuff that Kirk was just talking about, plus our Ask the Insiders board, which is a fantastic and really active and fun community. We talk about a lot about Ohio State sports, but about a whole lot of other stuff, pretty much everything but politics. So if you're interested in talking about literally anything but politics right now, and I'm guessing some of you probably are, that is a great place to be. So you can check that all out at buckeyescoop.com. Also, make sure you check out all of our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Spreaker, all those fun places. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of our great shows. You can subscribe right there. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review while you're at it. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.